Welcome to Doing Justice Brings Joy, the podcast rooted in the word, the witness, and the world we're organizing to change. We break down the policies, the structures, and the stakes behind the fights for housing, dignity, and freedom, tracing the line from scripture to strategy, from community demands to the decisions made in City Hall and beyond. Because justice is a discipline, joy is a mandate, and none of this work is done alone. And the story isn't finished until justice speaks. And we stay on it until the evidence is heard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy May Day. I'm going to, it's May 1st, 2026, and I'm excited to announce that the Kids Over Corporations May Day rally at the at Halifax Mall at the General Assembly is going on. And that's how we're going to open our story today. The buses are rolling. Before the sun came up this morning, before coffee was cool enough to drink, people were already on the move. In Pitt County, school staff boarded chartered buses at 7:30 in the morning. That's right, 7:30 in the morning. In Gaston County, teachers carpooled in the dark. In Charlotte-Mecklenburg, the second largest school system in the state, educators lined up at pickup points with water bottles and walking shoes and hand-painted signs that said things their legislators refused to hear. In Durham, my Durham, teachers hugged their own children goodbye this morning so they could go fight for everybody else's. Guilford County, Wake County, all of them heading to the same place, Halifax Mall, downtown Raleigh. And let me be clear about something before we go further. This is not a day off. Nobody packed a picnic. Nobody is on vacation. This is a day of reckoning. Let me tell you the scale of what's happening right now as you listen to my voice. More than 28 school districts across the state of North Carolina, more than 28 school districts across the state declared teacher work days or closed schools entirely. 28. And I'm going to name them because naming things matters. And when you name something, you make it real. You make it count. And I'm grateful to these dedicated school districts that supported today's activities. Alamance Burlington, Asheboro City, Asheville City, Bertie County, Brunswick County, Buncombe County, Cabarrus County, Chapel Hill Carborough, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, Chatham County, Cumberland County, Currituck County, Durham Public Schools, Edgecombe County, Forsyth County, Gaston County, Guilford County, Hoke County, Kannapolis City, Mooresville, M-O-O-R-E, Mooresville City, Nash County, Orange County, Perquimans County, Pitt County, Rockingham County, Thomasville City, Wake County, Whiteville City, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. This is not a list. This is a map. This is a map of a state on fire. I want to point out that Rockingham County is on the list. Burger, maybe if you'd be listening, you'd be in a job. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools held an emergency board meeting after more than 4,000 personnel requested leave. 4,000 people requested leave. CMS employs about 9,400 teachers and nearly 2,000 teaching assistants. When that many people say, "I'm not coming to work today," that is not an absence. That's a statement. Forsyth County Schools declared a remote learning day after more than 900 staff requested the day off. Wake County, the largest district in the state, shifted its year-round and early college programs to remote learning. Together, those two districts, Wake and Charlotte-Mecklenburg, serve more than 300,000 students, 300,000 children whose schools could not open today because people who run them said enough. So why? Why today? Why now? Well, let me give you the numbers, because numbers don't lie even when politicians do. North Carolina ranked 43rd in average teacher pay for 2024-25 school year. 43rd. The average teacher pay in this state is $60,323. The national average is $74,495. I want you to let that gap. This is a gap of more than $14,000 less for doing the same work with the same degrees in a state that claims to value education. That's an extra $1,000 a month. No, my math is bad. That's an extra $1,200 a month. That's crazy. We should be ashamed. It's getting worse and not better. The state is projected to fall from 43rd to 46th if the current figures hold. But here's the number that should keep every one of us up at night. Oh, Jesus. North Carolina ranks 50th, dead last in the nation in school funding. You get what you pay for, people. You get what you pay for. Dead last. 50th out of 50. Not 49, not in the bottom 10, the last. The very last state in the country when it comes to how much effort we put into funding our public schools. And the state has not passed a budget since 2023. I want to let that settle for a minute. North Carolina is the only state in the nation without a current budget. The only one. Meanwhile, and I need you to hear this, more than 18 billion with a B dollars in tax cuts have gone to corporations and the wealthiest residents of this state. 18 billion. Now, they found that money. They found it fast. They found it for the people who already had it. But for our public classrooms, for our teachers, for our children, somehow the cupboard is always bare. This doesn't make any kind of sense, any kind of way. And while our public schools starve, while our on top of the fact that they're making $14,000 less than other teachers around the country, they're buying their own supplies. Teachers are spending over $1,000 every year of the meager money we give them, funding our schools and funding their students with supplies. And we've got counselors who are covering 3 schools at one time. Bus drivers, if we can find somebody who's willing to do it, are working second jobs, while this state is writing big checks, but not to public schools. The private school voucher program cost this state more than $625 million last year. And they are projected to exceed over $551 million annually through the 2033 session. That's $500 million for private school vouchers, while we're not paying public school teachers and we're not funding public schools. And we've just gotten rid of the Leandro mandate. Now, you might say, Stella, maybe those vouchers are helping kids get access to better schools. And I would say to you, maybe you ought to look at the data. Because the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction laid it out clearly. Public schools lose funding when students use vouchers. The expanded voucher program do not increase access for new students. They are subsidizing families who were already in private schools. So they're taking our public school dollars and giving them to private schools that were already going to have those students, and we're going to already get that money from those parents. Instead of those parents paying, the taxpayers are paying for these private educations. The private schools receiving those voucher dollars face no accountability standards, no transparency requirements. Many of the top private schools in the state don't even accept vouchers. And most of the schools that do, they are concentrated in Wake and Mecklenburg counties, leaving rural counties, the counties with the fewest resources, those formerly Leandro counties, and those counties with the greatest need, without a single private school option and without the state funding that's needed to support public schools. The research, this is not Stella's opinion. The research, not politics. The research shows that voucher programs exacerbate racial and economic segregation. These are the facts. This is what the research is showing. This is not Stella. This is reputable research. This is our own Department of Public Instruction. So let me say this again. We're taking money from public schools, schools that serve every child, and giving it to private institutions with no accountability, no transparency, and no obligation to serve the children who need the most help. We are making segregation worse in the process. This is not reform. This is robbery. This is robbery. This rally that's going on as I am speaking to you, there are thousands of people right now. When we get off the show, go look at the news, but they are right now as I'm talking to you. There are thousands of people from across the state, from 28 school districts that I've already named, at a rally called Kids Over Corporations. It is organized by the North Carolina Association of Educators. My mother was one of the very first African American teachers to integrate the NCAE. Dr. John Lucas, who was principal at Hillside High, was president of this organization at one time. There is just so much history with the North Carolina Association of Educators. And the name of this tells you everything you need to know about where this movement's heart is. Kids over corporations. The demands are clear. They are specific. They are backed by math, because, teachers believe in that mathematics, okay? They are backed by math, and they are rooted in morality. And a 25% increase in pay for all school employees, not just teachers, all school employees, including custodians, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, teachers' assistants, the people who hold our schools together every day. That would cost about $2.6 billion. Per pupil spending, $22,000 by 2030, which would require more than $10 billion in new funding for the state, approximately 1.5 million students in traditional and charter public schools. Remember, we have charter public schools. Accountability for voucher spending, and an end to policies that prioritize tax cuts for corporations over investments in our students and in our states. We can't afford a zero corporate tax cut, not just for our students, but for our entire economy. Today is about kids over corporations. Say it with me. Kids over corporations. Kids over corporations. Kids over corporations. Now, what are the people in power saying? Senate Leader Phil Berger, said teacher pay is a priority, but he focused on outcomes over inputs. This might be why the folks in Rockingham County are on the mall today and we're not in the voting booth voting for you a couple months ago. I'm just saying. Outcomes over inputs, as if the people who teach our children are line items on a spreadsheet, as if the teacher's worth can be measured by a test score instead of by the life that she changed. Y'all know my sister Ramona was a public school teacher in the DMV. We interviewed her and talked to her last summer. As she retired from public education and started her own childcare facility, which is another story for another day, that we're going to bring her back to talk about. But one of the reasons she left, I'm going to tell this story and then we're going to talk about the priority budget here. But one of the reasons my sister left North Carolina was the pay. At the time, she was a master educator. She had won Teacher of the Year at her the Montessori elementary school she taught at. She was Teacher of the Year. She had folks lining up trying to persuade folks to let their kid in her class. That's how effective a teacher she was. She had a master's degree in education, which in North Carolina at the time, you got a bonus for having a master's degree in education. She had done all the things right. And then the state decided they weren't going to do that master educator enhancement anymore. And it was August, and we were taking my niece up to Howard University. And at the time I worked in DC, and her daughter was staying with me, and it was a Friday, and she came to get her daughter settled in, and she said, let me see what the pay was. And she looked and she saw that teachers there were making twice what she was making. And if you added in her 15 years of experience on top of the base pay, it was a crazy increase in the amount of money she was going to be making. And so she said, this was on a Friday. So she said, I'm going to apply for this job. And in the meantime, I had flown out to Indiana. I'll never forget this. I was out in Indiana doing a thing, and she called me on Monday, and she said, guess what? I was like, what? She was like, they called me for a job interview. I was like, what? She said, yeah, I know. So then on Tuesday, she called me and she said, they offered me the job. And that's how high in demand we are, as folks say, we are sewing the wedding dress for somebody else's wedding. And she told them that she contacted Durham Public Schools, and they were like, oh no, you got to work at least 30 days or whatever is in the contract, that you can't just leave, you got to do the whole thing. So she contacted them and said, I can't be there for a couple of months. And the desperation for excellent teachers was such that they said, we'll wait on you. And she went there and I think worked another 15 years. But my point being, we are Houston Public School comes up and recruits North Carolina teachers all the time because our pay is so low, but our standards and the performance of our teachers are so high that we're just training up educators for other people to come and snatch. Our teachers deliver where it counts, but only if they have the resources to do it. The House budget proposes an average 8.7% raise over 2 years. The Senate budget, Phil Berger, just 3.3%. 3.3% in a state ranked 43rd, headed for 46, while inflation is eaten through every paycheck like acid. That's, again, another story for another time. Governor Josh Stein has proposed 11% over 2 years, restoring the master's, so it hasn't been restored yet, restoring master degree pay bumps and a $1,000 bonus for all teachers and local education employees, with an additional $500 for those earning less than $75,000. Well, since the average in North Carolina is $60,000, I think that's going to be about most people. And then Steiner's proposed budget includes nearly $2.3 billion in education funding, with a focus on starting teacher salaries. Now, I'm going to tell you personally, I think we should bump up public teachers' salaries, but we should never leave any existing person below that point. So we have a teacher who's been teaching 5 years, and she's below that start level point. Everybody starts. They can't start ahead of that teacher. And I'm going to let you sit with these numbers, okay? 11% from the governor, 8.7% from the House, 3.3% from the Senate. And what teachers need and what they're asking for is 25%. Because 25% is not going to get them above water. It's going to stop the bleeding. While the thing says a rising tide lifts all boats, all the teachers are trying to do with 25% is get to the life raft. And here's what makes this so tragically short-sighted. While we're eating our seed grain. According to My Future NC's 2026 report, 1.72 million adults aged 25 to 45 in North Carolina hold post-secondary degrees or credentials. More than 57,000 additional North Carolinians earned a credential or a degree in just the past year. This state is pushing toward 2 million credentialed adults by 2030. But that goal, that future, is impossible without investment in the K-12 pipeline. You cannot build a skilled workforce by starving the schools that create it. You cannot harvest what you refuse to plant. And I want to remind you of what day it is, because date matters. May 1st, May Day, International Workers' Day. This is not a coincidence. This is one of several May 1st worker rallies happening across the country today. Participants pledged no work, no school, no shopping, workers over billionaires, community over capital, kids over corporations. Let me say it again. Workers over billionaires, community over capital, and kids over billion corporations. This is the first major teacher mobilization in North Carolina since the rallies of 2018 and 2019, when tens of thousands marched on this same ground. And before that, there were decades of organizing, decades of being told to wait, decades of being told the money is not there while the money went somewhere else. This is not a moment. This is a movement, and movements do not ask permission. So let me close this segment with this. When a state can find $18 billion for corporations, but cannot find the money for people who teach our children, that is not a budget crisis, not a budget problem. That's not a math problem. That's a moral crisis. When a state ranks 50th, dead last, in school funding efforts while expanding voucher programs that deepen segregation, that separate the have and the have-nots, that is not an oversight. That is a choice. And when 28 school districts across the state have to close their doors, not because of a storm, not because of a pandemic, but because so many educators walked out that there were not enough substitutes to cover the classrooms, that's not a disruption, that's a message. The buses are in Raleigh now. Halifax Mall is full. The signs are up. The voices are rising. And I'm here, your girl, Stella, live from Durham, North Carolina, to tell you every single thing you need to know about what's happening and why it matters. Kids over corporations. Let's get it going. Let's get into it. But today, is also International Workers' Day, a date that carries for more than history. It carries memory. It carries struggle. And this year is carrying momentum. We already talked about the rallying cries across workers over billionaires and community over capital. And today, here in Durham, that momentum has gathered at CCB Plaza, where workers, organizers, and community members will come together to demand what working people have always demanded: dignity, fairness, and the right to live with some measure of security in the jobs that sustain the city. The rally in downtown Durham is part of a broader international May Day tradition, one rooted in solidarity across industries, across borders, and across generations. Today's speakers and participants are lifting up the pressures many workers face right now. Wages that haven't kept up with the cost of living, unpredictable schedules, unsafe conditions, and systems that prioritize profit margins over human lives. I want to take a moment here to give a shout out to our state labor commissioner, who has gotten rid of a terrible practice that is uniform across the country. He's one of the few that the people in the labor call the death discount, where penalties would be discounted as much as 70% for small businesses that whose workers died in some unsafe conditions. He did an editorial explaining his policy recommendation on Wednesday, and I think it's appropriate for workers' rights. So I do want to give that shout out. I see Mark Lee, our producer's here. I'm going to welcome him to the stage.
Do you know if anything's happening?
I'm talking about the rallies going on, the May Day events going on here in
About
Durham and going on right now in Raleigh. And so, again, these gatherings are not just about workers, what workers are up against. It's also about what workers are building. I'm really excited about what they're doing. They're building collective power. They're building a shared voice and the kind of community that forms when people refuse to be invisible. As the day unfolds in Durham today, it echoes what we heard earlier in this program from educators and families who are gathered at Halifax Mall right now for the Kids Over Corporation rally. Different locations, different crowds, but the same underlying truth. So as we come to the close of this May Day special, it's worth sitting with that connection. We began this morning with buses rolling before sunrise, before the workday was supposed to begin. We began with educators leaving their classrooms, with families showing up for children whose futures are too often treated as line items. And we're going to end the day here in Durham with workers standing in the public square, reminding us that labor is not disposable and people are not expendable. Let me say that again, that labor is not disposable and people are not expendable. 2 rallies, 1 moral claim. When a society can find billions for corporations, billions subsidies that support data centers, incentivize corporations, 0% taxes for corporations, while our children suffer. When you can find billions for corporations and then you say we're too poor when asked to care for children, that the courts can say, dismiss Leandro and say that you need to take it up with the legislature when the legislature hadn't passed the budget since 2023. We're at a moral crisis in North Carolina. We're a state where our motto, our is to be rather than to seem. We seem to be supporting education and educational excellence, but we be at the bottom, the 50th state when it comes to education. Doesn't make no damn sense. Doesn't.
Nothing
Mark,
making any
I'm
sense
lit
and
up
everything like
today.
that. Sorry about that. I was actually at this, you can tell, at the Hayti Center and doing a lot of various work here and everything like that. But I say that we got a May Day rally going. And so what time is that rally? Because I knew it was coming up because I've actually organized one of them like 6 or 7 years ago. And everything was before the pandemic and was part of the organizing committee, was not part of the organizing committee for this one. So is this later on this afternoon or is this evening? What time is it? Because I may try to make it. I may not try to make it depending on my own schedule and everything like that. But when is the May Day rally for workers' rights?
Oh, let me tell you. I got Dante's thing open. It's going to be incredible. I can see that much from Dante's email. I've got all these windows open,
Mhm.
making it hard. Okay, so it will be. This will be the largest. We need your help. It starts at 4. They're gonna set up at 4, so I think it's gonna start at 5.
5
They're
until
gonna
like
set,
8 o'clock or something like that.
yeah,
Cool. I may try to make it to that.
and they have a kid zone set up with 2 kid tables. They have coloring books and other kinds of fun things. And so they're gonna rally from the CCB Plaza to the post office and then to City Hall. So, yeah, so it looks like it's like from 5 maybe to 7.
Cool. I may try to make it to that then. Like I said, I know I'm here till 4:30, and I think my aunt's bringing me some stuff, so I may side by will probably be the latter part of it, like 6 or 7. So I'll probably catch the tail end if I catch any of it at all. But I know I won't be there till probably the tail end because I got to run some other errands as well. But definitely, May Day is a wonderful event, and I did help with the planning of it one year and everything like that. But yes, it's definitely something people forget about because that's the original Labor Day because of the May Day revolutions and all along those lines. But people think about Labor Day as being a labor holiday, but the real labor holiday is May Day.
Right, right. We in America think about Labor Day in September, but the true international Labor Day is today.
Right.
And I know, have you been talking about this on your other shows today?
International Labor Day a little bit, but not as much as we probably should have because we were touching on a lot of other things, including the fact that one of the founders is at the Kentucky Derby. But definitely we talked about Labor Day in the past and have definitely mentioned it in the past.
Yeah, there was so much that happened this week. It's hard to keep up. I
Yep,
mean, from
we
the
had Brother
time we
Youssef.
talked last week, there's been, since we talked last Friday, there's been what, an assassination attempt?
Mhm.
There's been that voting rights case that gutted the Voting Rights
Right.
Act. You know, it's been mind-boggling week, and I think I'm just touching the surface. Oh, and you had what, Comey get arrested for
Mhm.
putting 8647 in. Not even, he didn't even do it. He just took a picture of what somebody else put in the stand. You know, it's just been quite a bit this week.
Oh, there's a lot going on. Like I said, one of the founders is actually going up to the Kentucky Derby of Pod TV, and of course we had to salute the Brother Youssef yesterday as well. So there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the tribute to Brother Youssef.
It was a wonderful tribute. It was a film that they did for Brother Youssef, Kenny Delsheimer and Raphael was involved in it, as was John Lawrence, and many people know him, the real Law, and everything like that. But it was definitely covered the building of the mosque, covered the Islam Cultural Arts Center, covered the No Bookstore, covered his connection to North Carolina Central University and Ira Wiggins, and a number of other things as well. It's very moving. Definitely a lot of the jazz legends, including Frankie Alexander, Eve Cornelius, Nina Freelon, and Lois Dawson were here, as was Rashid and everything like that. So there were a number of people that were here, including the Muhammads, that their father and their mother were very much involved in the arts world, well, not the arts world, but the culture world locally, that being Rose Margaret Murray and, of course, Kenneth's brother Kenneth Murray. So definitely they were featured prominently in the film, and a lot of people remember Dayoud and, of course, Freeman Ledbetter and a number of other folks. It was a very strong film and gave a lot of great memories, and it definitely was a touching film. Even brought up the No Bookstore and things along those lines. So it was a very touching film.
I can't wait to see it. You know,
They're going to
we
show it again in Raleigh at I think the center that the Murrays run and everything like that, and that's going to be in 3 weeks from now. So that'll be a showing
oh good, I'll
towards
get
the
to see it.
end of May and everything like that, and that'll actually also feature, I think, a dinner as well. So it'll be 2 day event for that particular one and everything like that. So there'll be other opportunities, and he's looking at getting in festivals, getting in shows, and getting in a number of other places.
I also understand this that happened this week was that the mosque the Durham Mosque got
And historical marker
historical
that was
got a historical marker, and they
yeah.
had a big celebration
Hmm.
with the installation of the historical marker,
Yep.
and a celebration of the Black Muslim community in our city.
Yep. That was a very much part of the film because they even talked about their connection to the West End as well. And you've been following some of the issues with the West End, even currently, like with Grant Street and stuff like that. But yet, all of that was featured in the film because Brother Yusef was very much a part of that, even at his own TV show and everything like that. So it
That's
definitely
right.
was part of that whole history.
Yeah, so it's definitely been quite a week
Oh,
we've
yeah.
been having here. Um,
We also lost a major artist as well, by the way, because I know that Dad went to it, and I did not go to it because I was not aware of it. But I know that in the LGBT community, Alex Troxler was a major force and everything like that. And apparently there was a celebration of his life recently as well, because I did not attend it, but I understand my dad attended it. And I do know, I want to say he was involved with Pleiades and some of the other cultural arts centers, but he was definitely a major player in the art world. And so his loss will be felt.
mm, so hard. You know, we've been losing people quite frequently in our world,
Mhm.
locally as nationally. On Monday, there'll be a celebration of life for attorney Stefan Bowens,
Mm.
who was the leader of the Land Loss Prevention Project that was part of the Black Farmer
Mhm.
litigation, and he was a young man, um, and he they'll be celebrating his life on Monday,
Wow.
but
And I did see one of your friends at this celebration because she was one of the filmmakers, but I did see um, the DLC, who is, of course, who was involved with you in the whole Nostra Barrio and other things as well. So she was here.
uh
She was doing some of the filmmaking for this particular event.
oh, Dilsey is one of the filmmakers.
Yes.
Oh, Dilsey's my little baby.
hmm And Troxler passed back in November of last year, but there was a celebration of his life recently and everything like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
he was a trailblazer in the fight for gay rights and definitely left a big legacy and everything like that. But yeah, there was a celebration of his life, even though he's been gone now for several months.
We have been really blessed here in Durham to be at the forefront of so many creative and cultural um, experiences for a small mid-level southern town.
Mhm.
Our influence on fashion. The Met Gala is on Monday, and I think about Andre Talley,
Mhm.
and then we also have the dance festival coming up.
ADF is coming up, so it'll actually be um, co-presenting a show with them and everything like that. So I think it's Camilla Brown is the one we're doing, but yeah, we'll be co-presenting the Hayti and the ADF a festival because we do some co-presenting like this thing that we did with Brother Youssef with a co-presentation with Duke performances and a number of other things. But yeah, we do have a dance performance coming up. I want to say that is coming up on let me look at my calendar and tell you the dates. But I know it's coming up soon because Yazir is going to be here soon as well. Yazir will be here on June 4th and everything like that. But the co-presentation with ADF will be on June 20th. So that'll be in the
20th.
month of June. So there's a bunch of things in June, including Monet doing a presentation as well, who's our interim artistic director. But yeah, there's a lot of things that'll be going on in the area and everything like that. So yeah,
Now,
June 20th.
biscuits and boots, or boots and biscuits.
That took place this weekend. So Mavis Staples, Rihanna Giddens, Reese Palmer, Camera Thomas, and the Blind Boys of Alabama performed on Sunday. I did not make it to that performance, but I know that they had some workshops on Saturday, and I didn't make it to some. I mean, the workshops were on Sunday. The presentation was on Monday, but I did make it to some of those things.
So this is it's so important that we celebrate. Again, Durham is so special,
Hmm.
and I know we have Bimbe coming up.
Yeah. We have Bembe coming up. The Eno will be in September because usually that would be 4th of July weekend. But with the damage that took place, speaking of climates and everything with Chantel last year, it'll be actually held downtown at the Carolina Theater and at some other locations. And I think that's the second weekend in September. And they may eventually go back to their original July date, which they've had historically for a while. But they also, Center Fest will be coming in September. But the Eno will be held in the Carolina Theater and maybe in the Plaza in the weekend in September as opposed to its usual July date. But you're right, there's a lot of things coming up, including the Black August in the Park will be coming up in August. So that seems like a long way away, but it's not that long away because we're getting ready to cross. This is May, so we're only talking June, July, and August, so about 3 months.
So I think one of the things maybe we will do, as y'all can see, I'm sprucing up my show. I got like a new opening. I'm doing like visuals. I think what we're going to do is maybe add a cultural calendar, so that we get to take advantage, especially as we coming up in May, June, July. We coming up on these summer times, and there's a lot of things, especially free activities for families and family reunions and real opportunities. That we need to make sure the community gets to take advantage of. I know that when I was raising my kids, free cultural events, that was all they ever went to. Um, the late mayor, Chester Jenkins, used to say me and TC were the cheapest people he ever knew, because he would ask us, what you and the kids do this weekend? And we tell him we had done some free activity. He's like, have the kids ever been to Carowinds? I was like, no, we can't afford it. He was like, are they going? He was like, I was like, no, but we did take them to like a little farm, and we went to Luray Caverns. We didn't go to Carowinds. And he was like, y'all are just nerdy. But I miss him so much. But
And by the way, it is Camille Brown, so I was corrected. Apparently, Camille Brown was the first Black woman to direct and choreograph on Broadway in 67 years because she did the film for Colored Girls and everything like that. So she is a world-renowned dancer, choreographer, and director, and she's known for reshaping dance and theater, opera, and film, frequently exploring African American heritage and Black identity. So she's a multi-award winner and a 5-time Tony nominee, so the Tony Awards and everything like that.
oh wow,
But she made history as the first Black woman to direct and choreograph on Broadway in 67 years with For Colored Girls. So like I said, she made some serious ground breaks and everything like that. She also choreographed Choir Boy, which got a Tony nomination, Once on the Island, which got a Drama Desk nomination, Hell's Kitchen in 2023, and Gypsy in 2024. So she's definitely directed and choreographed the revival of For Colored Girls Who Consider Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. And she became the first Black artist to direct a mainstream production of the Metropolitan Opera with Fire Shut Up in My Bones in 2021, co-directing and choreographing.
Oh,
So she
wow.
runs the Camille A. Brown uh, and Dancers, which is her company that she founded in 2006 to produce works focused on social issues, culture, and history. And she was the recipient of the 2016 Jacobs Pillow Dancer Award, the 2016 Guggenheim Fellowship, and the 2015 Doris Duke Artist Award, and multiple Bessie and Princess Gracie Awards. So she's definitely been doing a lot of work, including she had a show called Mr. Tolerance, a show examining the history of minstrelsy and its impact on modern stereotypes, Black Girl Linguistic Play, a piece highlighting the complexities of Black girlhood. And she's a graduate of the UNC School of the Arts and the LaGuardia High School of the Performing Arts. So she's got some ties here to the area and everything like that. And she also did Ink, which is a trilogy piece on Black identity, focused on cultural expression, live music, and storytelling.
And when can we see her?
That will be the one that is a co-presentation at the Reynolds. Well, we'll see her dance group. I'm not sure whether she'll be there or not, but that will be on June 20th. So that'll be taking place Saturday, June 20th, and it's a co-presentation with Hayti and the ADF. And also, don't forget Purple St. James, or Yasser as she's known, and I knew her back when she was Dana. She'll be here on June 4th. So that'll be here at the center. So, she's a known genre-defined artist, and she's definitely been honored at the Kennedy Center Honors, and she's been recognized at the Apollo Theater for her 25-year contribution to music, and awarded the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. So her influence reaches far beyond the stage. Her acclaimed album, The Ballad of Purple St. James, received Grammy consideration in 6 categories, and of course she's worked with people like Erykah Badu, Lenny Kravitz, Prince, Anderson .Paak, Elvis Costello, The Roots, and The Foreign Exchange. So her
And
song,
how much are those tickets, Mark?
I got to see how much those are. I don't think they're that much. I think they're like in that $10 range. But hold on a second, and I'll tell you.
Ooh, you can get that kind of culture for $10. You know I'm buying them up.
Yeah, hold on a second, I'll tell you exactly. I don't want to tell you a lie. So, but she's definitely done a lot of work, and that's going to be 7 p.m. and everything like that. So let's see what the ticket price. That's actually the tickets are ranging between $25 and $35. So that's still not bad for that kind
That's
artist.
less than not bad. Okay, that's less than not bad.
Right.
I can still take my whole family and have some change. There was a news article on CNN over the weekend that said the average cost of a date night was $200.
I can
So
believe that.
here you can go on a nice date to
Mhm.
Hayti on June 4th for $50 and some food.
Hmm.
So you can do the date for $100,
Right.
half price, and it'd be fancy, and you can dress up.
Exactly.
You can't beat that with a hickory stick.
You cannot beat that at all. And there are even some that are less than that. I want to say that Britt Bennett, who we've got coming, who is an author, that's going to be on May 7th. So that's a week from yesterday. And I want to say that might be in the $10 range. So let me double check that for you and everything like that. But that is definitely something that they can do very much and get a great price. And it'll be something right here at the Hayti that they can get some amazing stuff. But Britt Bennett has got a presentation called Reimagining Black Identity, the Interplay of Race, Place, and Power in the American South. So she's the author of the dazzling coming-of-age novel, The Mothers, and the National Book Award-nominated novel, The Vanishing Half. Already a much buzzed about social commentator, well known for her powerful personal essays, Bennett is one of today's most exciting new voices in literary fiction. Her lectures are compassionate and memorable as her writing giving audiences a window into her craft while exploring broader themes of race, family legacy, and injustice in conjunction with her work. And I want to say that hers might be in that $10 range. So hold on one second. I'm going to let you know that, because that's the case. You can get a like you can have a whole family date and everything like that.
Okay.
Not just a date with yourself, but yes, her tickets are, well, no, I'm sorry, her tickets in that same range. They're like 25 to $40, but you get to hear this amazing lecture and everything like that. But that is in that 25 to $40 range and everything like that. But still, that's an amazing lecture that you get to enjoy for that kind of price and everything like that. So we got some stuff happening in the center that is very well priced and that they should definitely be checking out and everything like that. So I want to say that my coworker Monet is doing a presentation and everything like that. So she's a multidisciplinary artist and a theater kid at heart, and she's doing a production. I think it's of Anna Devere Smith's work and everything like that. But she is doing that on June 19th, part of like Juneteenth celebrations. But her tickets are only between $15 and $25, so you can definitely bring your whole family for that and all along those lines. So there's some things that we got coming up that are quite affordable, and you don't have to break the bank.
That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna Mark and I are gonna work on a cultural calendar that'll roll through that we'll do starting I think maybe by the 15th.
Hmm.
That we'll have that cultural calendar all worked out, and we're going to try as many dates as we currently have. We're going to have click on for you or some kind of, I see we can do QR codes now.
We can do
Mark,
QR
so maybe
codes.
we'll make a QR code to what's going on at Hayti and have people be able
Yeah.
to rally
And not
to
just
it.
HI, but we'll also put stuff in there of the fruit, because that's where I saw the lectures that were part of
Hmm.
Discus and Banjos, maybe stuff that's going on at North Star Church of the Arts and even the Carolina Theater and the DPAC and a number of other venues, including some of the venues that are over there in Raleigh. Because I know my friend does Sips and Scripts and she does them. I know she's done some in Chapel Hill venues and some in Raleigh venues, and she's looking at some here and everything like that. So there's a number of venues, including some in Chapel Hill and uh, our adjacent cities like Raleigh and even Wake Forest and other places, including Brett's Open Mic that goes on every Wednesday. So there are a number of things that we can have a full calendar that if people are coming to town, they will have things to do. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you knew this, but earlier today, and I think it might even still be going on right now. Speaking of stuff going on, St. Mark's is actually having a fish fry. So they're having a fish fry down at their
Ooh.
St. Mark's and everything like that. So that is actually taking place as we're speaking. So there's actually a fish fry
Okay,
going
so
on.
you
Here.
know who I'm sending the boys in the car over to St. Mark's to get me some fries, some fish. Okay.
You're sending the boys over right now to get you some fish.
Yeah, yeah. They're gonna as soon as I get off this podcast, they're going to get me some fish. I hope they still have some because sometimes they sell out fast.
Oh yeah, but I think they started at around 11 o'clock. It's about 1 o'clock now, so I think there might still be some fish down there.
All right. Well, this has been another. Thank you all for participating. But today is Actions for Activists Day. Okay. I just saw an update from the News and Observer. Thousands and thousands of people rallied on the mall. It's been an amazing day for that. I want to remind people whether you're gathering today at Halifax Mall or we're going to see you at CCP Plaza later on today. I want you to be safe on your way home. I want your voice to linger in places where the decisions are made. And may we all remember that the rally does not end the movement, it reveals it.
Hmm.
So let's remember our chants for today. Kids over corporations, kids over corporations, workers over billionaires, communities over capital, and people before profit. So let's have some solidarity, keep this May Day going. And thank you, Mark, for joining me on this week of Doing Justice Brings Joy.
No problem.
When the enemy comes in here.